Good evening, good evening, good evening, Facebook family. It is time for another live video. I know again, I know I had said I was going to be doing the Say What You Need to Say May videos on the throat chakra, and in a very real way, this is what I need to be saying. So I know I have 2 more days in May, and I will promise that I will be getting those other 2 videos out around the throat chakra and healing the thyroid. But today I wanted to respond to a question that I received on my video that I did around the information and the download that I got from my spirit guides around race relations between Black and white people. And there was a question that I received, and I want to respond to that question. And the question was, I spoke in that video about why that Black people are empaths, and we're in empath narcissist relationship with white people in America, and or in the West particularly. And I shared that part of our healing is really important for us Black folks, that we each have healing parts, and there's different parts. And if you haven't seen that video, please go watch that video, because I'm not going to be talking about going back into detail around that in this video. I just want to respond to this question. So I spoke about how in that video, how it's very important for Black people to stop sharing the videos. And I want to tell you why. So this person responded and said, how is this, if we're not going to share the videos, how are we going to get this information out? And this was the question of, if we do not share the videos, how are we going to get the information out? How are we going to increase awareness around this situation? And I want to share with you respond first, why it's important as a Black person who is an empath, and this is really important for you to understand that you are an empath in this experience. It's really, 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 really important. And so why that's important is because as an empath, you are highly sensitive to energy. You are highly sensitive to, and let me say it in this way, you are highly sensitive to feelings. Now, you may garner the feelings and the energy of an environment. You may garner the feelings and information from another person. You may garner the feelings and information from a situation, like what's going on right now. Empaths are very highly sensitive to energy and feelings. And this is really important to understand, because what I mean by highly sensitive to it is you can feel it, and until you really learn that you are an empath, and you learn how to stand in your own power as an empath and stand in your own energy space, and you do that type of work, you're going to be highly influenced by that energy and highly influenced by that feeling. And to understand something as a soul and how this universe works and how this world works, thoughts are electric. They cause energy, they cause vibrations, they cause energy. Energy is magnetic, meaning it draws to it what's like itself. Thoughts are electric, and they cause vibrations, and the vibrations are magnetic, and they cause things to be drawn to you. This is what people often talk about, the law of attraction, right? It's really the law of mirroring, and I talked about that in the video as well. So go back and watch the last 2 videos I did. But this is really important to understand. So when you share a video, and when you're empathic as well, what I talked about, empaths are open, not just highly sensitive to energy, but you're also highly sensitive to your feeling of oneness. So as souls, we're all one. We are all connected, even though we're having the illusion of being separate beings. We're all connected. We're all one. When you are an empath, you feel that connection more highly than other people who are not. And I talked about this before with Black people. We highly feel our connection with each other. So this is why when you see that video of someone, you don't just feel like, oh, that poor man, or oh, that poor woman. You feel like that was you. You feel like that's somebody close to you. You feel it as if it happened somehow to you. And this is the thing why I'm saying about sharing the videos. It's because as an empath, you begin to absorb the feelings of that situation, and you begin to absorb everything that comes with that vibration, the belief and the feeling. The beliefs are, I'm not safe. I am under attack. This could happen to me. And if you see it, look on your timeline. Look how many of us are saying that could have been me. That could have been me. That could have easily been me. That could have been my son. That could have been my mother. Look how many of us are saying that. Here is why you need to understand energy now. It's really time. If you want to start healing this stuff, especially Black people, you've got to understand energy. And what happens here when you do that and you see something like that and it goes in your consciousness and then you start to have the thoughts that could have been me, that could have been, oh my God, you start to feel the connection to the person, because that's how we are as Black people. We feel connected to each other. You feel the connection that could have been me. You feel the sorrow, you feel the fear, and you feel the rage, and you feel it heightened. It's a heightened sense of it in your body. You begin to manifest an experience just like that for yourself. And you are also, when we have a collective number of us, all of us watching and all of us sensing that, we collectively send out, and this is how this stuff is keep on happening. This is why we really need to understand how things get created in this dimensional reality. It is time to wake up to who we are and how things work. When we watch and watch and watch, we send out an energy vibration that says more of this is going to happen, and it has no other choice but to do so. This is our role in this. This is what I'm saying. This is not like, it's not just all about them. You've got to understand we are playing a part in the manifestation of this as well. We are continually perpetuating it. This is why you don't need to share it, because your Black, the people that are connected to you that are Black, are going to see it. They are going to have an energy reaction of fear. They're going to have an energy reaction of anger, and they're going to have an energy reaction of feeling disempowered. And collectively, so here's something as a soul as well. When two people get together, when two people share the same thought and the same energy, their creation is much higher than 1 + 1. So it doesn't get 1 + 1 = 2. It's like 1 + 1 = 1,000. This is something to really understand energy-wise. This is why when you're doing energy work and you're doing things like where you want to manifest something, it's so much better to work with this with a partner than to just work with yourself. Because when two people get together and they merge their energy and they feel the same thing, the manifestation of power of that is like exponential. And it happens faster, and it manifests bigger in a bigger way. And this is why things around us being violated and violence happened against us and racism happening against us is happening so frequently now, and it's happening in such a big way because of the big rise of the internet. Because now we're all seeing the same thing. Like before the internet happened, you really just only saw what your particular news channel was showing, and they weren't showing everything. Now with the internet, we see everything, and we're all reacting to this. So, and I'm going to speak about white folks here in a minute. So if you're white, I'm going to speak about what your side of this is as well. I just want to get this part really clear for the Black folks, why you don't need to share it. So for Black folks, you're the empath aspect of this. You're the higher for collectively. Now, remember, I'm speaking macro, not micro. Micro, you may also have some narcissism in you as well, but and as well on the white side, you also may have empath as well. But what we're wanting to do is, as empath, you have to be very protective of your energy space, because you're more highly sensitive to energy, and you will create and manifest faster. Empaths, this is another part of empaths that's not really taught a lot. Empaths manifest faster because they feel more deeply. They're more open to the energy, and they feel it more strongly than the average person. So you manifest faster. So if you have a whole bunch of empaths watching a video of somebody getting killed, and they're all feeling the feelings of being violated and like the fear of that, what do you think is about to happen? They're about to manifest a whole bunch more of that stuff. This is how we are as Black folks energetically perpetuating this cycle. And we've got to stop. So this is why you don't need to share it. Right? This is another aspect of this too. You've also heard it called re-traumatizing yourself. And this is exactly what it is. And trauma to the soul, and go to my YouTube channel, Jerome Braggs YouTube/Jerome Braggs. You can watch a video where I talk about what trauma is to the soul. Go watch the video where I talk about what trauma is to the soul, so you can understand what trauma actually is to the soul. So how the trauma that's happening is a feeling. So to the soul, trauma is not the event that happened to you. It's how that event made you emotionally feel. It's the emotional state it created in you and the beliefs it created in you. And so that's the wound, because the root word of trauma is a Greek word that means wound or injury. And to the soul, that's the real wound that has to be healed. You get disconnected. That feeling or that belief disconnects you from a truth that your soul knows, and it disconnects you from the energy of your soul. And what it basically is it makes you feel not enough, not safe in this world, and makes you feel like your needs are not going to be met. And so you carry this emotional state with you in your life. And remember, your emotional state, your internal state is what manifests your life. It's what manifests your life. And so here you are watching this video that is re-traumatizing, re-making you believe you're not safe in this world. Re-making you believe you're not enough. Re-making you believe that your needs are not going to be met. And so then you're further manifesting evidence of that in your life. This is why Black folks need to stop sharing the video. We have a different healing path right now. Our healing path is really learning how to take care of our energy, really learning how to heal the trauma, the fear and the feeling of not being enough, and the feeling of our needs not being met, and the feeling of not being safe in this world, and also really stepping into our power and setting our boundaries. That's our work right now. Our work is not to inform and not to share and not to observe. We've observed enough. We've observed enough. My white family, your work is to observe and is to hear and is to listen. And if you watch the first video I did, again, I talked about how the empath part of healing is to raise their ego consciousness, and the white folks path in the narcissism aspect is to raise the soul consciousness, is to raise the empathy aspect, to raise your empathic muscle so that you can see what's going on, you can hear, you value what's going on, and then you can show up in what you need to show up. And so one of the things you really need to ask yourself as a Black person is this mine to do? And what I mean by this is not ask your mind, because we've not been taught how to really tune in and get our answers from our soul and get answers from our higher self and from our guides and from our spirit team. Like, literally close your eyes. Take in several deep breaths, really deep from the diaphragm, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Take in several. What I mean by several, take in at least 5. Close your eyes and ask and listen from your heart, not up here. Listen to what your heart says. What is mine to do here? Do I need to share this or not? And here's the thing where you need to do. So the question was like, how do we raise awareness? Here's what you do. Instead of sharing that on your timeline, share it to all of your white friends. Send it in a message and ask your white, for that's step 1. Step 2, ask your white friends to share it on their page, because it is the white collective consciousness that needs to be aware, because the white collective consciousness has the wound, and the trauma in the white collective consciousness is that they are separate from Black. And that Black, and so when we as souls believe we are separate from something, we diminish it. That's one. We diminish its value. The second thing that happens is we diminish its value, and then we also we divorce ourselves from it. So we really don't pay attention to what happens to it. It's like you push it to the margins and you don't care what happens in the margins, right? And so the thing that has to happen with, I spoke about this in the other video, is the white healing has to raise empathy. And so one of the things that has to happen is that they have to be aware of what's going on. And the thing about this is also is, so you have to do that, right? And not from a space of like, you're not trying to make anybody see anything. You're not trying to force anybody, but just, share this with your friends and ask them if they shared this on the wall. Because the thing that happens for us, we have Black folks, we have our own healing. It's a separate experience healing that needs to happen. White folks have their own separate experience thing that needs to happen. And their healing is also needs to happen together. So they need to witness things together. So one thing that happens in this relationship, by the way, is when you are in ego consciousness and you're out of balance in the ego consciousness, one thing that happens is you will kind of deny and reject it if it's coming from someone that you don't like. Again, if somebody on the margin, if you place that person on the margin, then you're not going to really pay attention to what that person is saying. So this is one reason why you sharing it on your wall and all of that isn't isn't doing the highest service as if your white friend shared it on their wall, because they are their white friends and their white family, they are not in the margins, they're on the page with them, and they're more likely to pay attention to it that way. So this is our healing thing is different. It's very different. So as a Black person, this is why you don't need to share it. As a white person, you do need to share it. You do need to share it. Right. And by the way, you guys, if you have questions for me, please put them in the comments and put them with the hashtag #AskJerome. Hashtag Ask Jerome, and then write your question. That lets me know when I go back and I review. If I don't catch your question live, it lets me know when I go back and review the comments that this is a question that I probably need to respond to in a future video. So this is important. Like that's one of the aspects of healing. Now, I'm not giving all the healing things. I told you I'm creating a course to go into this in more depth, but this is a piece of this, right? This is why. Responding to this question, this is why we don't need to be sharing the videos as Black people because as Black people, probably your circle and your social media feed is probably predominantly Black, and you are amping energetically the trauma. And as empaths, and as empaths who have unhealed empaths, by the way, who have unhealed trauma, if we're continuing that cycle. That's not what we need to do right now. We need to heal our trauma. And we need to stand in our power, and also really need to heal our trauma and really work on setting boundaries and doing that kind of work, right? White people are there. And by the way, I really don't like the terms Black and white. I'm just using them right now because this is what most people can, what most people use and they understand. I really do not. So you'll probably hear me pretty soon stop using them and use other words. But for the sake of this conversation today, that's what I'm saying. So white people, your healing journey is going to be increasing empathy and also doing some trauma healing as well, because you have ancestral trauma that needs to be healed. You have ancestral trauma. Both of us have ancestral trauma that needs to be healed. But it's a different type of thing. And the ancestral trauma for white people is mostly about feeling separate and feeling, one thing that with the narcissism comes up is it's not because a person is in love with themselves. That's a very big misunderstanding. Narcissism does not have anything to do with self-love. It is from the lack of it. It is from someone who who had a wound somewhere in their childhood where they weren't getting their needs met, where they were made to feel separate and they didn't get attention. And so in order to try and get the attention and in order to try and get their needs met, everything becomes about them. And this is an ancestral wound in the white collective consciousness that has to be healed and needs to be addressed. And you need to do some ancestral trauma work. And this is something we're not taught in our cultures. This is not something we're not taught in our schools, but it's time to be taught this, because there is too much suffering happening on the planet, because we're not taught how to heal our wounds. We're not even taught what our trauma is. And here we are, we're walking traumatized people in our worlds, creating over and over and over from our trauma, because you can't create a different life outside of your trauma. Your trauma is like kind of your attraction point. Is what you manifest from and where everything is kind of drawn to. And so this is why racism keeps going over and over and over again, no matter how many different systems we put in place, no matter how many different laws we put in place, no matter how many marches we do, because we're not doing the works that's going to shift it on both sides. And so this is a piece of that. You really have to start to protect your consciousness and your vibration as a Black person. You have to really be mindful of it. You need to shut the news off. You need to stop watching these videos. It's not like this is anything new, by the way. If you're a Black person, is it new? Is it something you've never seen before? It might be a person you've never seen before, but you know that situation like the back of your hand. It's not new. You know that situation. You know what it is. All you need to know is who it was. That's it, because you know that situation. It's nothing new to you. So it's not like you need to be informed. You don't need any more information. You don't need any more information. You now need to do the healing work. Our white brothers and sisters may need information, because that the way they were, their culture was shaped, the way their consciousness was shaped, they don't really see as much of you and what happens with us and what our lives are like. And they don't see anything outside of their reality, of their own individualized perspective, right? And this is not about shaming or anything like this. This is just kind of, we need to understand how socialization, conditioning, and trauma happens and shapes us. And so you don't need to see it anymore. And you also you have too much fear and you have too much shame in your energy field. And you don't need to add any of that to your energy field anymore, because it is creating. And nobody has really sat us down and held our faces and said, you are creating this suffering. What we have believed is this is happening to us, and until they change, it's not gonna stop. We have to make them change in order to. That's not what happens as a soul. You are the sovereign being in your life. Your energy and vibration is manifesting what you experience. So this is, one second, I have a question coming in here. Someone's asking, can we do any of these healing work in the same circles? Yes, but I don't think it's the time to do it right now. I don't think the time to do healing work together is time. It's kind of like, it's very similar to if you were in an abusive relationship and, one person was feeling abused and the other person was the abuser, or one person was, or let's say you were in a family and somebody was abusing you in the family and your parents were there and they weren't kind of paying attention to it, right? And they weren't witnessing it, or they weren't helping you. What needs to happen first is that everybody needs to do their separate healing work. The person who is being abused needs to do their healing work and see like where they need to heal the trauma of that, as well as look at the energy patterns and the belief patterns that have manifested that experience for themselves. The person who is the abuser needs to do their separate healing work to look at what trauma it was that led them to that, and what beliefs and energy patterns they're holding that would manifest a situation for them where they will want to abuse somebody. And the person that didn't speak up about it and may have witnessed it or didn't want to witness it, they need to look at that. And then when each person kind of does their work, we come together. We do need to come together. This is not going to be something but it's as everything in the soul, the healing work always starts with you first. You do your healing work and then you do it in community. This is something we've lost when we used to be tribal creatures, when we all lived in tribes, when we were more indigenous, especially the indigenous cultures of the world. This is what we knew, right? This is why you had vision quests. This is why the people went into the woods, and you went into the woods by yourself to do healing work. And then you came back to your tribe and you shared with your tribe what you learned, and you helped the tribe, but you did yourself in isolation. This is also why every major spiritual sect in the world teaches that in order to highly develop yourself as a spiritual being, whether we're talking about Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, whatever, every spiritual sect has this thing where in order to really develop yourself as a spiritual being, you need a period of isolation. There needs to be, like, there's going to the mountains, there's going to the woods, there's going to the caves, there's going to deep meditation. You need a space for yourself to work on your thing, and then you come back into the greater community and work on that together. So if we're talking about culture, Black people need to work on this by themselves for a minute. White people need to work on themselves for a minute, and then we need to come together, because you really need to dive in. There's many reasons about why this too, because people need to feel, in order to really open up and dive into the deepest parts of their healing, they need to feel very, 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 very safe. And a lot of times in mixed environments, Black peoples and Indigenous peoples and people of color oftentimes don't feel fully safe to fully dive into everything. And it can also be vice versa. Sometimes white people don't feel fully able to dive into how they're really feeling and what they really want to say, for fear that they'll be rejected or they'll be shamed or something like that. So you want a space where everybody feels safe to really say what they feel, so that you can get it all out and you can look at it, and then you can really do the work of healing it. And it's deeper than just therapy work. I'm talking about really reconnecting to the frequency and vibration of the soul, because this is what's really happened. We've been disconnected from the truth and the frequency of the soul. We need to do this type of work. We need to do this type of work for both of us. And then we come together and look at how do we coexist with that. Now that I have my wholeness, now that I'm connected to my center, how do I exist with your wholeness? Now that you have your wholeness, how do we exist with each other's wholes? We're both not whole, and then trying to work on how to be whole together. We got to work on our wholeness first. So that's kind of what I would suggest. I'm not saying that to disband your organization, by the way, if you have one already. I'm not saying that by any means. I'm just saying the big work and the real work, there has to be spaces for us to do this type of work in separate spaces. So this is really important. And this is kind of, again, why I'm doing this course. This course is going to be, there's going to be a course that I'll be working just with Black folks. And there's going to be a course where I'll be working just with white folks. So that each group can do their work and go really, really deeply into it. But yeah, I just wanted to answer this question really fast. I know this wasn't as fast as I was initially intending it to be, but yeah, I wanted to really, this is why you don't need to share it as a Black person. You share it with your white friends and ask them to share it on their page, because that is their work. The increase of empathy is what needs to happen in the white consciousness, in the white collective consciousness. In the Black collective consciousness, empathy is already super high. You don't need to raise it anymore. We don't need any more of that. What we need is to heal our energy space and to protect our energy and to raise our feeling of power and to raise boundaries. So, and this is classic for any empath narcissist relationship, as by the way, that in order for the narcissist to heal, they need to raise their empathy. And in order for the empath to heal, they need to focus on their own needs. And by the way, this is another thing. This is another part of the wounded empath, is trying to make other people see you. Trying to make other people see you instead of you doing the work to see yourself. Instead of you doing the work to take care of your own needs. And one of the things that you do is, instead of trying to make people see you, you set boundaries and you go and get your own needs met. So even if they never see you, you're still okay. And this is part of the healing process for us as well as Black folks. But I'll be speaking more on that later. I just wanted to share this, pop on here and answer this question. I hope it answered the question. Again, if you watch this in a replay and you have questions, ask Jerome, and then put your question in the comment. And if it is a question that I think will serve the broader population, if it is serve all of us from me answering it, then I will do a video or some type of post to respond to it. Until next time, you guys, I love you. We're gonna do this. This is why we manifested here as souls. We manifested here to heal this. We are here as souls to alleviate suffering and expand joy. That's literally why we're here. Alleviate suffering, expand joy. And one of the big ways we're suffering is through this particular thing of racism. And we're here. We manifested during this time period to be the ones that added to the healing of it. So stay tuned. I'll be announcing my course here soon. I still don't have my computer, so I'm doing everything on my phone. So that has slowed some things down a little bit. But as soon as I get my computer back, I'll be swiftly creating that course, and we'll be starting in that. Because it is time for racism to end, and it may not fully end in our lifetime. It is possible that it could. It may not fully end in our lifetime, but we can definitely have a drastic and dramatic decrease in the negative effects and in the suffering of it. And that is why I am here. That is why you're here. And let's do our work. Each of us is needed. Each of us can. As we each heal our own selves, we will heal the world. That is a promise. So until next time, I love you. Now go love yourself. Bye.